From Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on with our discussions, our explorations, and our interactions with the works that can be found in the really splendid set that was released earlier in the year by the Criterion Collection, and it is a release that is designated SPY number 1082, and it is this: the Signifyin works of Marlon Riggs. And so this contains a number of works by this filmmaker artist Marlon Riggs. And so today, if it's okay, I'd like to focus our attention on one such work. It is described as being from 1990. It is a, relatively speaking, short work, approximately 10 minutes. It is described also as perhaps having to do with certain outtakes or footage that was associated with the making of an earlier work called Tongues Untied. But it is also a film or a work, an audiovisual work in its own right, and it has a very strong and powerful presence and message, or a series of messages or themes that can be said to be part of the overall filmography and indeed purpose and function of the art of Marlon Riggs. So this is from 1990, and it is called Affirmations. As I say, it is a short work, approximately 10 minutes. But we see within the space of its 10 minutes or so a lot of words and images and various juxtapositions and a type of dialectical exchange that leads to or results in a number of, say, statements or a number of representations that I think are very artistically powerful, and they have a type of strong social message or edge to them. That are also, or that can be described as being quite political as well, or have a certain effect in that direction. And this is also, I think, taking into account the type of approach or style or thematic consequence that his work Tongues Untied had. And so I think this forms, a really great and powerful companion piece with the earlier work Tongues Untied, but also serves, I think, in its own way, as I say, its own work in and of itself. So it's a great example of the art and artistry of Marlon Riggs. And so what we have is perhaps a number of different aspects. One of those aspects is a conversation with Reginald T. Jackson. And we saw, actually, Reginald T. Jackson in Tongues Untied, in certain aspects of Tongues Untied, as being one of the people that was maybe interviewed or seen speaking in various aspects. There are certain conversations that we see Reginald Jackson engaged in that earlier work, for example. And he also speaks to us, or speaks to the camera crew. There's a little bit of a discussion involving snaps and snap divas in that particular film. Here in Affirmations, we actually get the opening of this being a one-on-one conversation with Reginald Jackson, and he is speaking in very intimate terms about meeting someone. One time, he says that he went to a club. He would have gone with his brother, but he ended up going alone. But he ended up also meeting someone, and that led to an intimate sexual encounter, and that he says that he enjoyed himself. It was very fun. It was very liberating. It was a type of realization of who he was and who he is as a young man, as a gay man, and someone who, at that particular moment that he's describing, found a type of of happiness and joy in this encounter, in this experience that he had, that he's explaining to us. He says at some point, Lord, we sung the praises to the Lord that day, and he's talking about a particular moment where he meets another friend of his later, and how he describes the joy that he had with this particular experience, and so in church. This is a type of awakening, a moment of awakening for him that he's expressing, and he's doing it in this really direct, a very intimate way. But he has a strong command of language. He also has a great way of expression, and expressing it that in ways that I think are very playful and have a very charming quality to them, and also they are also very direct and very honest. And so this is, I think, a nice connection or carryover from the some of the discussions that were had in the earlier work, Tongues Untied. But it's also yet another way by which we can get to know this particular young man. As I say, we are very much, it's just one-on-one with him, and he's talking to us, to the camera, and he's smiling, and it's an example of that type of self-expression, that expression that the camera of Marlon Riggs is allowing him to essentially make for us, and for all time and for all eternity. So this is a key aspect of this particular work, Affirmations, one of the key aspects. And then it turns into a depiction or a covering or a footage or of what's described as African American Freedom Day in Harlem. And then we get shots of a parade. And this is really important and really significant, because some of the aspects that we see of this parade have to do with expressions of racial pride, and pride in one's identity as an African American. And so we have here the words or the chant that is being spoken by many members of the parade itself. The people united will never be defeated. And so this represents one aspect of this idea of self-expression in contemporary society, namely the way in which the society or the community or the population is trying to, as I say, in this outward way, in this very public way, in this parade fashion, are trying to confront issues of racism. And so that's one aspect that's very important as far as the depiction of this parade is concerned, how to handle this aspect of racism. And then the other aspect is how to handle the aspects of, say, homophobia. And therein lies another aspect of this parade, and another chant that is expressed by a number of the participants in the parade that we see in this work, Affirmations. Hey, hey, ho, ho, homophobia's got to go. And so this is the chant where they are trying to express or confront aspects of homophobia that is, again, part of the external, or one of the, can be found in some of the sources of the external that form much of the challenges to many of the people, as I say, that are part of this parade. So there are these two aspects. Then I think these two aspects are very much mirroring, or very much complementary, to one of the key themes that was expressed in the early work, Tongues Untied, namely the idea of people in that work, like Marlon Riggs himself, who identify themselves and who recognize themselves and who see themselves as black gay men. And so the idea is that they feel, or they recognize, that there are, in essence, two sources of confrontation vis-a-vis their own existence and their own identity. One in terms of their race and racism, and others in terms of their sexuality and homosexuality. And so these two aspects, in terms of racism and homophobia, are therefore expressed, or the reaction to these two aspects, or to these two external sources, and the confrontation to these particular external sources are seen expressed again in this parade. So this dual confrontation that was part of Tongues Untied, or not part of, was a key aspect of Tongues Untied, is also found expression in the depiction of this particular parade and this particular point in time. And so there's also a moment in the work where we see someone who is on the outskirts of the parade expressing quite vocally his displeasure with this particular parade, and saying a number of things, showing or expressing his disagreement in a very type of confrontational way himself. That also touches upon aspects of not just their sexuality, but also their race. And so we see this type of confrontation play itself out in real time, as it were, as part of what we see within the 10 minutes or so of this powerful work, Affirmations. And then it leads into it's so powerful because we see, for instance, a glimpse in the parade of a picture of Martin Luther King Jr. And this is, I think, very significant. If you recall, in the work Tongues Untied, there was this great way in which Marlon Riggs was trying to establish a link between the idea of self-expression being itself a type of act, and the expression of love being itself a type of political or revolutionary act. And that is very important, because then he links that idea of self-expression with the political revolutionary aspect of civil rights in the 1960s. And I find that connection to be very apropos, and also very significant to the concept of affirmations, because the work Affirmations closes with a very powerful sequence where we hear from various participants what each participant's dream is, or what it is they hope for society and for who it is they are. Dreams, what their dreams are. I dream of this, I dream of that. This very much, I think, echoes I have a dream, Martin Luther King Jr., and thus it very much links or echoes the optimistic outlook that accompanies the hopes that were associated with civil rights. What were the hopes? What are the hopes of these particular people? They have hopes of equality. They have hopes of acceptance. They have hopes of being recognized for who they are as individuals, as human beings. And these are very optimistic, very powerful, and very life-affirming, and ultimately so overwhelming in terms of that power and the profound nature of what it is that they are hoping and dreaming. And so this capturing the essence of these particular dreams in terms of this particular sequence that is part of Affirmation is one of the sources of the power of this work. So I think, hallelujah, the word hallelujah is also used. So hallelujah indeed, in terms of these particular dreams. This, therefore, I think, is yet another example of the, power and the confrontational aspects. When I say confrontational, I mean the way in which confrontation is handled, and it's seen to be handled by the various individuals that we see depicted and shown in the various works of Marlon Riggs, included in which, of course, is this one, which is Affirmations. Okay, my friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I very, very much appreciate it. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.